So, I wanted to talk to you today about something a little bit different than I usually discuss. I wanted to talk to you about fiction in all its forms. I mean, I am a writer, after all, in case you haven't noticed. And I wanted specifically to talk about villains. The the most vile, scariest villains in all of fiction ever. I wanted to discuss the most frightening, disturbing MFers in the history of writing, just ever, right? This is going to be a somewhat short, personal list of the most frightening pieces of work I, Connor Landon Freeman, ever really encountered in storytelling ever, uh, with one honorable mention. And this is all in celebration, of course, of the spookiest of seasons. So let's get into it, shall we? I've always thought it very interesting that you'll get these stories that are described as very morally gray, morally complex tales. You get these villains who are the most black-hearted evil monsters that you ever did see, right? You somehow a complex, morally gray story only applies to the main characters, and the villains are even worse than most black and white stories. And the same is true for Dune, where we get a morally ambiguous main character in the form of Paul Atreides, and we have an antagonist who is the vile, hideous, horrendous Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, who is pure evil. The Baron is disgusting in appearance as well as in just general manner. He does not take care of himself at all, and frankly, there is an element of kind of absurdity there. I dare say Frank Herbert was letting some of his own personal abhorrent personal beliefs shine through a bit in his depiction of the Baron's obesity and sexuality. But that does not change the fact that in a fairly dry, rather straightforward novel, the Baron's chapters are some of the most well written, most complex and compelling and really disgusting, distressing things you will ever read. And most of that is due to Phaedraltha, who is a strangely compelling, secondary main character almost, the anti-Paul, if you will, who interacts with the Baron constantly, and the Baron, who is this just he's very intelligent, upsettingly clever and capable, almost to the point of Machiavellian levels, but he is also just an abusive, cruel, vindictive creature who makes a habit of well, to put it as plainly as I'm able to, he attacks children and pretty much anyone else he can get his hands on, really. And it is the implication is of some horrible, nasty stuff. And while it does make the strange religious science fiction thriller more, it expands upon it in ways, showing how the Baron is so lecherous and cruel and greedy and conceited, comfortable in his power. There's, a political angle there of how a man like that can rise to such a prominent position. All that also is it portrays an evil that feels real in the most horrible and depressing way possible, because deep down someone like that exists in the real world, and probably more than one someone, um possibly at this very moment. um and he's not even the worst character I've come up with for this video. I mean, moving on. Um, the next on my list is a slightly different wheelhouse, but I don't think any less horrifying, honestly, because the next person I want to talk about is Hannibal Lecter. Books, movies, and an excellent TV show. At least the first season of an excellent TV show. Um, Obviously, Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of Hannibal Lecter is well regarded and phenomenal, I suppose. But Mads Mikkelsen's portrayal of the character is somehow darker and creepier to me. More so, but still not quite book accurate, but still a very fascinating character. Hannibal is just perverse and compelling, and he is persuasive. He is so persuasive, and yet he has killed so many people, so many. And he holds these petty vendettas against people who have wronged him in some way. Very small, slight grievances, which he revenges with murder. Um, and he has no qualms with killing anyone who stands in his way, be they man, woman, or child. Um, Even worse is his charisma. He wants to share his feasts with people, and he wants to convert others and make them monsters like him. It's really quite something, and especially in the first season, he is shown to be just so cunning and ominous and monstrous. He's very much a satanic figure, and the third season of Hannibal really kind of went off the rails in that department. But we did get an amazing, ridiculous, absurd, cartoonish fight scene. Maybe the most ridiculous in all of human history, simply for how unexpected and out of place it is. So there is that, and that almost makes up for the quality of that season. Almost. Anyway, though Hannibal is the satanic, imposing embodiment of evil in oh so many ways, there is another I'd like to crown for his pure evil. As it combines elements of the Baron with the Good Doctor in ways I think few could ever have dreamed of, even in their worst nightmares. Because I'm talking about Euron freaking Greyjoy from A Song of Ice and Fire. Uh, Euron was, in the popular TV show Game of Thrones, a skeevy pirate with a death wish who didn't achieve much and was not very interesting. However, he was a very different character in the books. He was maybe the single most evil human being in all of fiction ever. Um, Euron is a murderous, psychopathic, abusive, intelligent, evil mastermind. He's borderline the vilest Norse god you can possibly imagine. He's capable of romanticizing his own evil acts in ways to the point where just by talking about a bad thing that he's done, he's able to make this like basic evil into something existentially, spiritually terrifying. He doesn't do something if you can't spin it in such a way that it seems like he's defiling a sacred altar. I mean, Euron goes out of his way to do bad things, some of the worst things imaginable, because he is this extreme, rabid, is a nihilist the word I'm looking for? I don't think that quite fits. But he doesn't really believe in good or evil, and he wants to prove it by being just the most evil bastard that he can possibly be, by hurting and abusing children, and he tortures his own family, and he engages in black magic rituals to gain forbidden knowledge, and he seduces a girl, pretends to be in love with her, only to get her pregnant so that he can kill her in a magic ritual requiring the sacrifice of royal blood, which is so upsettingly evil. Euron is fascinatingly, disturbingly evil, and he keeps going and going, and he's this active predator in the waters, in a world where a whole bunch of people have come to accept him and like believe he's their savior, he's their king, when he intends to turn the whole world into his own godless playground where he can kill whoever he wants with impunity. Um, Euron is hands down the most evil character I have ever read about. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention how I have never read Blood Meridian from front to back. I've never read Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. I have read a little bit, bits and pieces, to see if I was interested in reading the book, and I was so frightened of the character of Judge Holden that I decided I wasn't going to read Blood Meridian for quite some time. The judge is not human. He is quite possibly the demiurgic god of that weird Western novel, the existential, child murdering philosopher god who does not care about anything other than war and death and destruction, how much pain and suffering he can inflict upon the world. He who smiles and kills and dances and sings, who says he never sleeps and says he'll never die. Um, so yeah, the judge is probably the most actively, emotionally distressing, upsetting, evil monster ever imagined by any human mind ever. But I have not read the entirety of Blood Meridian, so I cannot. It would be irresponsible of me to make that claim without further knowledge. So until I know more, the vote goes to Euron Greyjoy. Um, I am going to rule out Am from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream simply because he's a robot and has no capacity for anything other than hatred. I mean, he could very well be the most evil character in all of existence. But again, it's a short story. I don't have enough information to go on. He could just be running on autopilot for all we know. And there's an element of sympathy to the character that we don't get with Euron. Euron's just evil. He's an evil bastard. And and you have more sympathy for frickin' Ramsay Bolton in those stories than Euron. Euron is just evil. Okay? So Euron gets the crown for the most evil, disturbing, horrific monster I personally have ever read about. So yeah, I have been Connor Landon Freeman, author of Weird Fiction. I look forward to talking to you again. Until next time, yeah. Bye.